If you have plantar fasciitis, probably one of the biggest concerns on your mind is how long is it going to last? Now, a lot of physicians will tell you that plantar fasciitis will spontaneously resolve on its own, but that it takes a long time. And it is true that sometimes after 12 or 18 months, the symptoms of plantar fasciitis will just go away. But the bad news is that that's a really long time to suffer if you've got foot pain. And additionally, plantar fasciitis that just goes away on its own without doing anything about it is subject to recurring because you never really fixed the underlying problem, the symptoms just went away. Now, the good news is that that doesn't have to be the case for you. Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Candy, and in this video, I'm going to explain how long plantar fasciitis lasts, what you can do to speed up your recovery process, and how you can fix the problem for good so that it doesn't keep coming back. So how long does plantar fasciitis last? Well, it lasts for as long as you continue to do things to aggravate it. Imagine if you took a hammer and you hit your thumb. It would probably hurt, right? Now imagine you continued to do that and you did it 3,000 to 10,000 times a day. How long do you think your thumb pain would last? Probably a pretty long time, right? Well, we do the same thing every day when we're walking. We take thousands of steps landing on our feet. And that doesn't mean that you have to stop walking or running. It just means that if you're walking with mechanics that are aggravating your plantar fascia or other structures in your foot, then your foot's going to continue to bother you until you fix those problems. And no amount of stretching or exercising or rolling your foot with a tennis ball or a cold water bottle can outdo 3,000 to 10,000 steps a day of walking wrong. And so that's one of the main problems that you need to fix if you want to get rid of your plantar fasciitis fast and get rid of it for good. So how do you do that? Well, to understand how you fix your walking problems, you have to first understand what walking problems cause plantar fasciitis in the first place. And I'm going to explain a couple terms here because they're very relevant to plantar fasciitis. Now, when you're walking, your foot goes through a cycle of pronation or kind of flattening out as you load weight on your foot, and then supination as you go to push off. And pronation and supination are both normal movements. You need both of them for proper mechanics of your foot. But you don't want to over-pronate or excessively pronate or over-supinate or even under-pronate. So let's first start out with the over-supination or under-pronation problem because that's the less common problem. And then I'm going to go a little bit more in depth into the over-pronation problem, which is by far the more common problem that causes plantar fasciitis. So over-supination means that you're not pronating enough as you're loading weight down onto your foot. Now, pronation allows your foot to act like a shock absorber. And the natural arch of the foot, it's meant to absorb shock as you put your weight down on the ground so that it doesn't get transmitted up through your knee, through your hip, through your back, or elsewhere. And when you load weight down onto your foot, it's supposed to give a little bit. That arch is supposed to compress a little bit and flatten a little bit, and that helps attenuate the force so that it doesn't move up your body. But if your arch isn't flattening enough, then you're getting all of that force transmitted up through your heel, the contact point in your foot, and then going up through your knee, your hip, and your back. So when you hit your foot on the floor, if you're heel striking, and particularly if you have a naturally high arch foot, you're going to get a lot of shock going through your heel, and that's going to transmit up through your body. It also puts a lot of pressure on the attachment of the plantar fascia right at the calcaneal tuberosity, the bump right on your heel. And so if you do have a high arch, it's important to allow your foot to flatten out a little bit. Now, another thing that can be really helpful for people with a high arch foot is hitting more on the midfoot or hitting with your heel and the balls of your feet at the same time. You've got essentially three functional contact points: the base of your heel, the base of your first toe, and the base of your fifth toe. And those form kind of like a tripod that gives you your arch stability. So as you're hitting, if you're hitting with all of your body weight on your heel, and this is even more true if you're running, then you get all of that force right at the attachment of the plantar fascia, and you may even be prone to developing heel spurs. Now, if you can hit with your toes and your heel kind of at the same time, hitting with a little bit more of a mid-foot strike or hitting at all 3 points at the same time, then that helps use that natural arch of the foot to help absorb shock so that you're not getting all of that force going through your heel. So that's the over-supination problem, or under-pronation, that your foot's not pronating well enough and it's not absorbing shock. Now, by far the more common problem is the over-pronation problem, where your foot flattens out too much. And there are a lot of contributing factors to that, hip weakness being one of them. That if your hip is weak and you can't control your body weight, then your foot is going to naturally get driven in because of your knee going in. That your lower body works like one continuous unit, kind of like the song, the head bone's connected to the neck bone and so forth. Your lower body, when your foot's in contact with the ground, your joints all function at the same time. And so getting your hips stronger is one thing that will help you to control that over-pronation problem. The other thing that really affects it is the muscles in your foot. You've got a lot of muscles lining your foot as well as muscles that cross your ankle, and those all contribute to the stability of your arch and how much you pronate as you're walking. So when you're walking, if you dome your arch by kind of shortening your foot and curling your toes a little bit, that reforms your arch and gives you more stability so that you're not flattening your foot down as you're walking. And so what that would look like as you're taking a step, you'd take a step, dome the arch, and you do need to pronate some. So it's not like you're trying to walk in a major amount of supination, but if this is your maximum pronation, this is your maximum supination, you want to kind of hit somewhere in the middle, get a little bit of pronation as you're walking, and then you supinate again, and that supination towards the end of your gait, it pulls tension in the plantar fascia, and that helps lift your arch by a mechanism known as the windlass mechanism. So you should have a tight plantar fascia. And one of the common things that people will do for plantar fasciitis is massage it with a tennis ball or a water bottle, but you actually want your plantar fascia to be tight. Furthermore, if you've injured your plantar fascia, meaning that you've overstretched or torn it from over-pronating and shearing on those fibers of the plantar fascia, then the last thing that you want to do is stretch it even further. Now, there are some good benefits of rolling your foot with a tennis ball. For example, it massages some of those little muscles in your foot. It mobilizes some of the joints that make up your arch. So there's not necessarily anything bad about massaging your foot with a tennis ball or a golf ball. But just note that you don't need to do it as hard as possible to break up or stretch your plantar fascia, because really you want your plantar fascia to be tight. It helps you to function to make your foot a rigid lever so that you can push off of it when you go to take your next step. So what else can you do to make plantar fasciitis go away quicker? Well, it is important to do calf stretches, which are one of the first line treatments that almost any doctor or any physical therapist will give you, including myself, that it is important to stretch your calves. But there's a major problem that a lot of people make when they're doing calf stretches. If you stretch with your heel off the edge of a step, or even if you're doing like a runner's stretch like this, if you allow your foot to pronate or flatten as you're stretching, then you're kind of playing into that over-pronation problem that caused the plantar fasciitis in the first place. So when you're doing your calf stretch, you need to stretch it in the position that you want your foot to be in when you're walking. And so start out by doming your arch, just like you would to take a step, keeping that arch lifted, and taking a step forward with your other foot, keeping that arch lifted, and stretching in that position. Now, you may notice that you can't stretch nearly as far with your arch lifted like this. In fact, some people, if you just lift your arch while you're standing, you may feel a stretch if you've got really tight calves. You may feel a stretch just doing that. But if you have a little bit more flexibility in your calves, you may notice that you can take a small step with your arch lifted, but you can go significantly farther if you allow your foot to pronate or flatten and allow your toes to turn out. And that's one of the most common mistakes that I see when people do calf stretches, is that they turn their toes out and they allow their foot to flatten, which again plays into that over-pronation problem. And stretches are really just a mechanism to improve your functional mechanics or your walking. And exercises, likewise, strengthening exercises are really just meant to improve your functional mechanics when you're walking. So it's great to have good calf flexibility, and it's great to have strong feet from doing towel curls or just practicing standing on one leg with your arch lifted. Those are all great strengthening exercises for plantar fasciitis. But again, no amount of exercises that you do is going to overcome 3,000 to 10,000 steps a day of walking with poor mechanics. So to go over the correct mechanics of walking again, you want to hit with your arch of the foot all at the same time. Don't necessarily load heel to toe. And I know that flies in the face of a lot of things that you may have been told before by doctors or physical therapists, but try it out for yourself and see what works best. If it works best for you to go heel to toe, then keep doing that. If this works better for you and it helps you to relieve your plantar fasciitis, then do that. So again, hit with your toes and heel at the same time with the arch lifted. You want to allow a little bit of pronation, but not excessive amounts of pronation. And then push off from your big toe. So what that would look like in real time is now you'll also notice that when you do that, it's a much quieter walk because you're not getting all that impact force through your heel. You'll notice that even more so if you're a runner and you run with more of a midfoot strike, that you're not getting all that loading force down on your heel. And so you'll notice that your running, especially if you're running on a treadmill, sounds much quieter because you're not getting all that impact force, and more of your force is going in the forward direction, which is more efficient. It saves your energy and you don't waste so much energy on going up and down as you do going in the direction that you want to go. So hopefully you found these tips helpful, and hopefully they will help you to recover from your plantar fasciitis even faster. Now, additionally, getting hands-on treatment for your plantar fasciitis to release stiff muscles in your calves, mobilize joints in your ankle and in your foot, and to help you get your hips stronger so that you can walk or run with proper biomechanics, it is a good idea to see a physical therapist. And if you happen to be in the St. Louis area, we'd be happy to help you out with that here at More for Life. And if you're watching this video from somewhere else but you found it helpful, give the video a like and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.